Hades 2 is a sequel to the much-loved Hades by Supergiant Games. Hades 1 was a phenomenal game. It single-handedly catapulted roguelikes to one of my favorite genres. Thanks to Hades, I've explored the genre and found some absolute bangers, with a few stinkers along the way. Supergiant's other games are all worth checking out if you haven't. Specifically, Bastion and Transistor really stick out to me, with Pyre not quite clicking but still worth checking out. If you've never played them, you should. These games all age like fine wine due to their art and narrative style. Let's start off with the good that this game does, and trust me, there's a lot of it. Like every game made by indie juggernauts, Supergiant, this game is gorgeous and oozes style at every possible moment. So much so that by the time you play another game, it's going to be hard to not be let down with the art. Hades 2, along with 1, manages to create a unique but entirely appropriate take on Greek mythology. The art of the game is genuinely just that. It's art. Each character design is more or less flawless and manages to represent the character while telling a cohesive story and building on the game's universe. The game runs at a perfectly smooth 120 FPS on PS5, my preferred console of choice. The game's audio is also fantastic, including the voice acting, which is essentially 50 hours of ASMR. Hearing these beautiful gods and goddesses whisper into your ear sweet nothings while divulging their character and lore is truly an interesting way for the story to unfold. The music is diverse and interesting, give or take a repetitive bass line or two. Speaking of the characters, the voice acting is superb, with an absolutely ungodly amount of dialogue options. Seriously, there are like 40 characters in this game who all have different voice prompts depending on where you are in the story, or any recent relationship actions, or just what you did on the run before. While completely unverified, I can safely assume this game has more lines than there are in the Odyssey. This game's bread and butter is definitely the combat. While starting off with a simple weapon, you eventually unlock 5 more, each with multiple variants to them, that completely change the way you play the game. The gameplay loop is also excellent, very rewarding and addicting for the most part. If you go on a run and you do terrible, whether or not you know it, you probably made progress in one form or another. It seems like behind the scenes of this game, there are 20 different moving parts, and every time you come back, something is different. Maybe you have a new goal to work on, or a character tells you something new. Maybe you can craft some new items, you can do some farming, or maybe you unlock a new skill or a new weapon. All of these small actions add up. For example, you might unlock a new weapon, and you might go on a run with that weapon and get some big rewards. Once you have all these rewards, you can then upgrade your skills or your weapons, and your next run, you'll get much farther. This type of gameplay loop for me is what makes roguelike so addicting. I don't always want to sit down and buckle in for an online game or a 100-hour RPG, but if I can just play a run of Hades and know that I'm making progress in some way, it really reinforces the dopamine loop and it just keeps me going. When I was at the peak gameplay of this game, it was all I could think about for a while, and I played it a lot. I played about 2 hours every day for 5 weeks. This game is a prime example of how I want roguelikes to be. It's extremely addicting, the story's done well, it feels awesome to make progress. Getting a little bit stronger in between every run is really motivating, so you never feel discouraged and you never want to give up. For example, let's say you have a really bad run. The next run you go on, you might start off with a random heroic perk right off the start. This could completely change the trajectory of this run. When I started, I was mostly just mashing a simple attack button, but by the end, I understood the intricacies of this game, including dashing a lot, charging attacks, casts, special attacks, and the way everything flows and interconnects perfectly. By the end of this game, I understood the idea behind theory crafting builds for the most part, which was really fun. Additionally, it was just so much fun to experiment with the different builds and perks you get, because every run was different. I definitely had a few go-to perks that I knew would be good, but for the most part, I was really encouraged to keep exploring and trying new things the entire game. Especially when using a different weapon. Using a different weapon would just slightly change the perk enough to keep everything interesting. Once you beat the game, you're kinda just starting. After the first few hours, you will likely open up the surface path. This is climbing to Mount Olympus, where you will fight creatures from the Odyssey, gods, titans, and a secret monster that I will not reveal. This path is noticeably harder, and my initial reaction was the one the game wanted me to do. It was to go up, mess around, realize it's too hard, and then focus on the bottom path. This dramatically changed the formula from Hades 1, as that game only had one path. The two paths ultimately intertwine with each other, and are dependent on each other to beat the game. Yes, you will have to beat both of them multiple times to get the ending. Once you start beating your runs, the game will tell you how to progress. This game took me about 25 hours to beat for the first time, and it was honestly quite a challenge for me in Elder Unk. Once I beat the game, I may have turned on hero mode. It took about 20 hours more to get the true ending, which was indeed very satisfying. It then took another 20 hours to get the epilogue, which, while fun, I was definitely running out of steam for the game. It then took yet another 20 hours to finally platinum the game, leading my final playtime to 79 hours. Hades 2 simply works. Every aspect of the game blends together well to create a truly unique and outstanding experience in a world that, while small, feels lived in and vibrant. I highly recommend this game to almost anyone. If you haven't played the first, check that one out, as it's just as good and probably cheaper. All in all, I would give Hades 2 a 9.1 out of 10. And since you don't know me, this is an absolutely massive score. This game definitely cracks my top 100 games and maybe even my top 50. Some quick advice for those who are looking to 100% aka platinum the game. Number 1, plan your runs out. You will need to beat the game with every variant of every weapon. So in the beginning, write it down and make a list. Cross it off once you've beaten it. Later on in the game, a list will appear, but it's very late game, so you could have been making progress the whole time. Number 2, try to max out your relationships with all the characters. Technically, you only need 10 characters, but this is, for the most part, one of the more rewarding and satisfying ways that you can make progress in the game. Number 3, focus on upgrading your Arcana. You will need to do this anyway, and the sooner you do, the stronger you get. I put this off until the end, and I regretted it. Once you get to the very late game, there will be someone that you can fight, a certain secret boss. Fight them twice in order to get their keepsake. This is going to be your last keepsake, and it's going to be one of the best. I only beat them once, and then I didn't know where to find the last keepsake. Number 5, enjoy your time with this game. You really can't rush this game, and if you focus on it too much, it might take away from an excellent gaming experience. I gave this game a 9.1 out of 10. I would not give the Platinum experience a 9.1 out of 10. Honestly, I'm not too sure how to rank this, but just given the sheer amount of grinding you have to do, I was really sick of it by the end, and I feel like that kind of soured my experience a bit. I'd give this Platinum experience maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10, and it's really just bogged down by having to grind the game so much. But the fact that the game's pretty awesome, the combat's fun, definitely makes up for that. All in all, I would say this is a pretty easy plat if you do use God mode. If you don't, I can't really speak for that because I used it as soon as I beat the game the first time. But if a jaded Unk can do it with God mode on, you can too. Anyway, thanks for watching. These are my thoughts. I genuinely wanted to hear what you have to say. Is Hades 1 or is Hades 2 the superior game? I know the internet's divided, and because I haven't done a Hades 1 review like this, I don't really know. I loved Hades 1, and I loved Hades 2. Is there a better one? Does it matter? You let me know. Anyway, you're...